Well, I find it interesting that you didn't really seem to struggle with depression or anything up until that point of the draft, and during that process. So I'm so curious to know, like, what ended up happening through that.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to still get drafted. I got drafted in the 4th round to the Lions, which was, a side note, very shocking because they had planned to come down to Miami and take me out to dinner and plan this whole visit, and they canceled on me the night before the draft. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to the Lions anymore. But, so I did fall in the draft a little bit, but I was still fortunate, still able to, have a 6-year career and play a little bit. Knee healed. I tore the other one a couple years later, which was fun and another depression experience. But, I've dealt with it since football, and I've dealt with it a couple times in football, and injuries were a big part of that, because injuries in the NFL, unless you're one of the top players, a lot of teams don't wait around for injured players. It's like, and I wasn't a top player, and so I was the guy, worried if I was going to get cut every year, and so every time you get hurt, it's, my career might be over. And I got hurt, a decent amount. I had several knee injuries. I had several, later I had a heart thing that came up, a heart condition that came up that was the ultimate reason I did get cut. And that was probably the darkest time in my life, is not only right before the NFL, but leaving the NFL, because I had never thought to myself that, hey, my identity is wrapped up as an NFL player. Like I was so easy to, and I've seen guys struggle so much. I had guys close to me, like guys I played in college with, guys that I would do anything for, that struggled when they left the NFL. And I was like, well, that's not going to be me, because my identity is centered in Christ and not in football. And man, was I wrong about how much I struggled, because I had to get a heart surgery. That was terrifying me.
That is terrifying.
I now don't have a job anymore. I don't know what's going to happen. The girl I was dating for like 3 or 4 years prior to that, we just broke up. Like everything in my life, there wasn't a single stable thing. I was moving. I just got, to make matters worse, like literally I got in a pretty serious car accident. I was fine, but my truck was messed up. And it's like everything was happening in the span of like a week, and I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Like what? It just felt like the punches kept coming, and that was a difficult time. And I don't want to, I think the largest one was, I, as much as I didn't think I had an identity in football, or that I saw myself that way, I probably did a little bit, but you realize how much other people see you that way. When you were, their cool NFL friend, and now you don't get their calls anymore, or you don't get the same treatment from certain circles, or from certain people in your life, and you're just like, man, this is, who am I now? Like where am I? Like what how am I going to get through this? And so that was another part of my life that was down. I do say, like, both, to bring it back to faith, I think both of those moments were, God didn't, I don't think, cause that pain, but he allowed it to happen because he saw what it would bring me to. I went to Detroit through the draft process, and Detroit had the strongest group of believers on that team. And I considered myself a Christian prior to that. But that's where I feel like I really started walking with God. And I was like, oh, God wanted me here in Detroit. And he was willing to allow me to go through this, to bring me and put me in this situation in Detroit. And I feel like, God used that, me leaving the NFL to put me where he wanted me, with the people he wanted me to. And it strengthened my relationship with them. And so it's, sometimes you have to, try to look forward to, like, what is this what is this bringing me to? What good could come from this? How can I react to this situation more than just why am I here? Like,
It's hard. It's definitely
very hard
hard
to
to
do that.
understand his plan when you're in the thick of it.
yeah, it's like you're flying an airplane and you can't see anything in front of you because there's so much fog or turbulence or everything else, and you just have to trust him that the plane's headed in the right direction. But that's so much easier said here talking with you than when you're in the middle of it, because every day is just a struggle at that point because you're wondering what's going to happen, and just struggling with the things that you're struggling with.
Yeah, and it is really hard to understand that. I feel like the more people I talk to, and even myself included, the hardest and darkest times in my life, what's come out afterwards has just been absolutely beautiful in a sense that it's like, oh, I start to understand. I mean, I got to a point, I'll never forget one car ride home from Fort Worth. Actually, it was the first time I'd ever been to Fort Worth. And like I had stopped drinking. I felt like I was really following God's plan. And then I had a therapist tell me that she really recommended that I go to this 30-day trauma treatment program. And I was so mad. I just remember being in that car ride, like crying. And I'm like cussing too, just like, why are you doing this to me? But with cuss words.
Yeah.
Because I just was like, once again, it's like you don't plan on your identity being in something. And you also don't want that identity to say, oh, yeah, like I don't drink, and I'm divorced, I don't drink anymore, I'm single. Like, just wasn't looking like an A on a paper, which is what I kind of used to really go after, like I wanted to look like everything was presentable. Yeah. And so it was that, luckily I heard that calling that is like, I've laid all this out for you. When are you going to go? Long story short, I went, and then I got back March 15th, 2020, and lockdown was March 16th. Wow. And it changed my life. Yeah. And in every way. And so I remember that comment of like, I've laid all this out for you. And it literally felt like he laid it out for me from day to day. Yeah. And so, but when you're in that, you can't see it. Your identity is tied up into things, and it is that ego, which I heard somebody say, like edging God out, and it is because you're fighting
I've never heard that. That's good.
Yeah, you're fighting, this flow of, what can be and what the path He has for you. You're just like fighting it. You're like, no, but I want this.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yeah. And so I just think that when you're in it, it's really challenging. And if you can just let yourself get through it, then there's just so much, goodness on the other side.
Yeah. I don't know, when you go through something traumatic, no matter what it is, right? There's probably nothing you can do that just, snap your fingers and it's over the next day, right? But, finding help through whether it's faith or community or the people, like that will help you ride out that period in your life to where you're not dealing with all the symptoms and feeling isolated and those other things, where the ride will be a lot smoother, because sometimes the ride is not optional, it's mandatory, because sometimes life happens. But getting through that and getting to the other side with a fresh perspective and a new place in life, like, what can you do? What can people do while they're in it? And I think that's what we need to, encourage people to find solutions for.
Yeah, and that's like one of the things that we're trying to do here, is that we're trying to tell people that your mental health is like your physical health. And you work on your physical health. Some people do 1, 2, 7 times a week. And so if we can start treating our mental health like that, it'll allow people then to not get to this place where maybe things become so out of control. Like maybe there's more, like exactly life is going to happen, right? Yeah. And do you already have the tools and the systems in place to be able to take that moment in time and to get through it in a way that feels a little bit more manageable, and your coping skills are more of journaling and yoga and trying to put these things into place, as opposed to the opposite, which may include like drinking or food or some sort of addiction. And listen, there's no right or wrong here. And for me, I ended up, I took a path where I was like drinking more and stuff like that, and I had to get a hold on all of that. And, but yeah, if we can put these measures into place and treat our mental health like our physical health, I think it just allows those moments to go through with a little less of the heartache involved, or the severity of the darkness around it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said it perfectly.
Well, okay, so your heart's okay?
Yeah, heart's okay.
Okay,
yeah, still
good.
beating.
Well, very good. So then you get out of the NFL, this major transition in your life. What starts to happen after that? How do you rebuild yourself after that?
Oh man, my life changed a lot. Like I said, all the things earlier, like new city, not knowing what to do, just knew everything, new friends. Like my friend circle changed, which was probably ultimately for the better. Like
Right.
it was, I found, great guys, great community believers that, when you kind of, I don't know if I hit rock bottom, or I was probably close, but it kind of sometimes forces you. I started going to church every Sunday. I started going to our church offered this thing called The Porch on Tuesdays. Monday nights, we had our community group. Thursday, my club had this thing called Man Up, which was like another Bible study. And I was like, I'm just going to go here. I'm just going to go here until I get right. And it took a long time because, you still don't know, like, how's my heart going to heal? What am I going to do next? But, slowly over time, those wounds heal. You get back to your normal self. I was really passionate about this idea around sharing music live. And so I started this company, EarBuds. And I joke with people, and it's a joke, but it's also very true, is that, I used to think, playing football was stressful, but wait till you start your own company, which
Yes.
now that you're in the middle of this, because kind of Murphy's Law, what can go wrong will go wrong. And
Almost daily.
oh yeah, it's multiple times a day. And, that is, you think you have a big fundraising round closed and it falls through, or you think you have this big partnership, closed and it falls through, or, one of your key hires leaves or something, things things start to break, unfortunately. There's a lot of good times too, like
Right,
starting
of
your own
course.
company,
Yeah.
there's a lot of pros, but it's stressful. And there's times where when something, unfortunate happens, man, it's, I deal with mental health stuff, regularly now. But, I've through a little bit of practice, I have people in my life, some are other founders, so they get it. Some are friends that I've known for 30 years, and some are, just other people in my life that, you can talk to about these issues, and, hey, will you check up on me? Like, will you check on with me a couple times a week, see how I'm doing? And, I've had, a lot of them have asked me to do the same thing. So it's kind of like an accountability group, but it's also like kind of a brotherhood of like, hey, let's make sure we're all doing okay. And so, I just summarized like 3 or 4 years into a couple seconds. So I don't know if I got hit anything with detail, but
No. Well, and I think what you're doing with your EarBud music is so important because, like growing up, so I've always dealt with depression and anxiety as far back as I can remember. And music was, I felt like it saved me growing up. I would like retreat to my room and I'd find songs that would felt like it would keep me going. And so I just think it's really an important, music aspect for people. And then the community. So I feel like what you're doing, I don't know if you've heard that, if people use music for their mental health, but not only along with the music, but the community, it's really just impactful.
Yeah, and that really, speaks to, the new direction of the company is just the best place for people to talk and share music. And what we're building now is basically half chat, half music, and we've already seen that with our beta users and even people at the company. Like, oh man, when I'm feeling down, I listen to this song, or this song always cheers me up, or this, and they talk about why it is. And there is a sense of community there. And music is, they say, music is the universal language, but it also has the power to move you. It has the power to, change your mood. It has the power to make you feel things that only music can do. And that's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Yeah,
and B
absolutely.
is like, we want to help people share those moments when it makes them feel a certain way, or when it makes them even feel nostalgic or anything, whether it's changing their mood for the better, or just how it makes them feel. We want people to talk about that, share that, and even just share the music that they're into and that they love, and that that's on their playlist at that time. But so we definitely talk about that. We think that's we believe in the power of music, and we want it to enable people to share and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, if you think about where music and writing comes from, it usually comes from people when they've been in those places, which is why I think people relate and find those songs that mean so much, because whoever wrote that song went through that in order to write that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if you're talking about country music, because every country music is about, a sad moment in their life. But no, just kidding. But no, exactly. A lot of songs are written from really authentic places in their life, of things they're going through, or things they're feeling. And what makes, I know for me, like, I listen to the words of the song, and if it relates, or if it makes me feel a certain way because because I can sympathize, or I can feel, or like, oh man, I've been there, or like, oh, that's exactly how I feel. That's yeah, you're right. That's music. Music can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. One band, that I listen to, that it's sorry, hold on, I'm fumbling. Hold on, let me start over. One band that I listen to whenever I'm definitely not feeling gratitude, when I'm kind of in the woe is me moment, is Bethel, and it's a Christian band.
Yeah, no, I know them. Yeah.
Okay, and that can take me to like a place of gratitude and be like glorifying, and I'm like, okay, like it just really helps recenter me.
Yeah.
Because we all have those moments, I think, where, like you said, you're getting knocked down, and it's hard to feel gratitude around anything, and that's just something I try to either feel gratitude, write about it, or listen to something every day.
Yeah, I'm big into the worship music too, even more than just on Sundays. And sometimes you just need to be reminded, because there's probably things at any given time that's not going right for you, or me, or for anybody, but there's probably a lot of things that are. And sometimes you need reminders of that, like, hey, you're healthy, you have a roof over your head, you're not, there's a lot of places in this world that, just don't have the same freedoms that we have here.
No, not at all.
Or hey, you have a good job, you have a good relationship, you have a good, a good family, you have people you can fall back on, and you could go on for, forever about all the things you do, but it's human nature to focus on the couple things that aren't going well for you, and that's why, kind of an attitude of gratitude. It's a common phrase there, but and being reminded of that is encouraging. It's important.
Yeah, I heard this lady one time say, for people who don't have faith, you do have faith because we all have faith in things that go wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so interesting. Like, it is so much easier to have faith in things that go wrong and then to keep going to that path than to think that we have faith in a higher power or what's going good in our lives. And I was like,
It's very true. It's very true. The one thing kind of about gratitude. I had a pastor one day. It was our Lions pastor, and he one time said, it was like, if you ever think things don't work out, like write down the things that stress you out, the things that you're praying for. Write out your prayer requests in a journal and just keep it over time, and then look back at it, because whether it was solved exactly how you wanted to or not, a lot of those prayers were either answered or that situation worked out. But what so human nature is, and I'm definitely guilty of this when I'm not doing this, which I haven't done in a while, is you don't even say thank you for all the things that worked out, right?
Yeah.
Like all the, oh my gosh, I got to get a new job. Oh, is my heart going to be okay? Oh no, is this going to happen? And then you look back at all those, like, yep, all of those things worked out. But now I'm focused on 3 more things that aren't working out. And so you think we would learn by now, or you think I would learn by now, I'll put myself in it, that, hey, like, things can work out, but it's just human nature to struggle with those things.
Yeah, and it just takes time, and I think that's one of the messages that I try to get across here, is that there are times in our life that seem hard, and just to give it time and, to keep going, because we're all worthy of that. And so I love that you have been talking about your faith, because we know that that's a huge part in helping with your mental health. Are there other things that you do? Community, let's see, you've said faith, you've said community. Are there physical things you do? Or
working out is a big one. Yeah. There's a couple times, like I try to work out in the mornings, but if I don't, and I just have to stop everything and go work out at like 3:00 in the afternoon, it's just because I just have to, and it's healthy for me. It helps clear my mind. It helps, gets out some of that nervous energy I have. It gets out some of the other things, because when you're fully training, I think a lot of people, this might not be true for everybody, but it's true for me, where like if I'm working out, whether I'm lifting or running or doing something, cardiovascular wise, like I'm not worried. I'm not thinking about my problems. I'm like thinking about how to survive this workout. And so it's a little bit of a reset button, and I think it's healthy. I mean, there's a lot of studies that show all the amazing thing working out does for not only your physical body, but also your mental body and your mental health. And so that's a really big one for me.
Yeah, I think it's so important too. And speaking of being an entrepreneur, there was a time whenever I was just like, I don't even have time to work out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I went through 6 months, and then I realized this isn't good for my mental health. And I do a lot of other things, like, so I would keep up with meditation and stuff like that, but I had to start finding ways to incorporate it. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but it's like I can be all or nothing. It's like I need to be working out for 45 minutes or it's not a workout. And so I had to get rid of that mentality. And if I can go and I can work out for 20 minutes, then that's great.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. I mean, I just try to simplify things to incorporate it for those of us who are not naturally, or I wouldn't say naturally, it's just never been the first priority on my list, but it's always something I've maintained and done my whole life.
Right.
And when things get when you're in a pressure cooker and you feel like you don't have time, just, hey, 15 minutes, like just do what you can to go walk around the block a few times.
Well, it's so easy to like snowball things, right? And that's what, mental health struggles, like you start doing the things that take you out of your normal rhythm, right? It's so common to want to stop working out, because you're for me, I just don't have energy, right? Like you're just like, or you're like, oh, I don't have the time or whatever. for me too, like I go for comfort food. Like instead of eating healthy, I will go eat, terrible food for you because I was like, this is going to make me feel better. If I go eat a ton of pizza, I'm going to feel a lot better. And it doesn't. It makes you feel way worse at the end of the day,
It doesn't
right?
like the moment, and then it does it after.
Yeah.
You're like, in this moment, this feels really good. And then afterwards, you're like, man.
Why did I do that? And so it's important to keep doing the things that that you normally do when you're not struggling, and to just try to stay in that routine. And I don't know if that works for everybody, but if I can get back to my normal routine, that generally tends to help. And when I get outside that's when things start to compound.
Well, I like it. So faith, community, and physical health.
Yep.
Yeah, good. Well, Jason, this has just been wonderful. Thank you for joining us and for opening up about your own story. And I'd love for you to come back on one day.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having
I feel
me.
like I could just keep talking to you. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoy talking to you as well.
Great, thank you. I want to thank you for joining us here at Speak as One, and I want to thank Jason Fox for joining us today. You can check out Jason's story along with many others at Speak as One on our YouTube channel. And please like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and we'll see you next week.